Hello everyone, I am architect Nishtha Joshi. Today I am here to host you with a live session for THiNC Institute of Design. THiNC Institute of Design offers various courses related to design related competitive exams. As I'm an architect, today I will be hosting a live session for preparations of JEE and NATA, which are the two entrance exams for architecture colleges. Today is a very candid discussion session with all of you where we will be discussing one of the topics related to the syllabus of both JEE Paper 2 and NATA exams. As you know that the dates of these exams are nearing, we are hosting these live sessions every few days to discuss some of the other important topic related to exam with all of you. Today also I've brought one such session with you, and so the topic that we will be discussing today is very interesting. In fact, it is one of the very fundamental topics that is related to the exam preparations of JEE Paper 2 and NATA. Usually when we talk about JEE, people only think that it is an engineering entrance exam, but JEE has separate papers. The paper 1 is an engineering entrance exam and JEE Paper 2 is related to architecture. Very few people in the country know that, in fact. I have many colleagues and friends who are engineers and who are not aware that JEE Paper 2 is for architecture. So through these sessions, we also clear many doubts and misconceptions like that. So there are many topics which are related to this particular subject. Apart from qualitative aptitude and maths, there is a whole separate section of architectural awareness. There are many topics inside architectural awareness like components of building materials, awards in the field of architecture, famous architects, and so on. So today we will be discussing one such topic. Before we start with this topic, I'll introduce myself. I am architect Nishtha Joshi. I am a conservation architect and an alumnus of SPA Bhopal, as you already know. I have done my master's in heritage conservation, and now I work with heritage monuments and structures towards restoring and conserving them. I also work with UNESCO towards nominations of World Heritage Sites. So we prepare dossiers and documents for the World Heritage Sites that are announced every year. Apart from that, I have a small initiative called My Heritage Trails, through which I try to raise awareness about heritage and culture. I'm based in Chhattisgarh, so I mostly work towards raising awareness of the heritage of Chhattisgarh. That is my state. And I'm also a faculty of architectural awareness at THiNC Institute of Design. So every week I take these architectural aptitude or architectural awareness classes with THiNC Institute of Design, which literally has some of the best faculty members from around India, which who teach various subjects related to design and all the competitive exams that are associated with any design fields. For more queries, you can go to their page, and there is a number which you can find on the comment section. You can also reach out on that number regarding your queries related to any of the design exams, especially JEE Paper 2 and NATA. So as I said, today I will be discussing a very interesting and important topic with you all, which is related to architecture, that is famous architects and some of their famous buildings. Now, these are two separate topics in the syllabus, but both of these topics are interrelated. If you are talking about these famous architects, the master architects who have influenced the world architecture and who are still inspiration for us even in this contemporary, ever changing and ever growing world, then we of course discuss and study their buildings, the works that have made them so great. And in this, we also prepare for another topic, which is famous buildings. And every year we see so many questions coming in the exam, both JEE and NATA, which are related to either some of these famous architects or the buildings that they have made. Now, in our classes, we discuss many architects who have done great work and who are from different countries. We have a separate class for Indian architects, a separate class for architects from around the world. These architects can be from different countries, but all of them have contributed very highly in the field of architecture. So today I will be just giving you a glimpse of how we discuss this topic in our classes. I'll be talking about a few architects today in this live, and we'll be discussing about their architectural style, the way in which they used to work or they work, are still working, and what influenced them into making such great structures which are inspiration to all of us. So there are many different types of questions that appear in the exam related to these famous architects and also related to the buildings. So at the end of this live, we will also be looking at some questions which have come in JEE or NATA exam in the recent past, and some of these kind of questions can also come in the future exams in 2024. So the first architect that I want to discuss with you all is Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier is a very famous name when we talk about these architects, when we talk about the field of architecture. And he's famous not just because he has done exemplary projects in foreign countries, but he has also contributed to a great extent in Indian architecture as well. A lot of people don't know, but Le Corbusier has actually handled many projects in India, and he has also designed the modern city of Chandigarh, which was almost one of the first big cities which was designed or planned in India after independence. So let's learn a few things about Le Corbusier first, and then we also discuss some of his famous projects. And I'll also tell you some trivia about his work in India. So Le Corbusier was born with the name Charles Edward Genre, and he was born in 1965. He is actually a Swiss French architect. He was not from India. Many people also have the misconception that maybe he was a Britisher and he was born and brought up in India, but that was not the case. He was a Swiss born French architect. Most of his projects have been in France, in fact. And he was not just an architect, but apart from that, he was also a good designer, painter, urban planner, and also a writer. And he is, of course, one of the pioneers of modern architecture. So in architecture we have various styles. As the world evolved, architecture also evolved many folds, and we've witnessed multiple styles in the field of architecture. When we talk about Indian architecture, we have various styles like Sultanate style architecture, Mughal architecture, colonial style of architecture. And throughout the world, many different styles have been there. So modern style was a style in architecture which could be seen right after right after industrial revolution. So through industrial revolution, we got many new materials, many construction techniques, and a lot of advancement in the world of architecture and building construction. So the style that evolved after the coming of these new materials was known as the modern style. And Le Corbusier was one of the pioneers of this style. In fact, he was one of the first architects to have introduced or popularized this particular style in India. He was one of the founding members of the Congrès International de Architecture Moderne, which is also known as CIAM in short. And the style of architecture that he used to implement in his buildings, apart from modern, was Art Nouveau. Art Nouveau is actually another very famous architectural style, and it also flourished a lot in the old world and was reused in the modern style of architecture. He had five basic principles in his style of architecture that can be reflected in most of his projects, and he used to call these five principles the five tenets of his architecture. So here I have summarized these 5 points in very simple words so that each and every one of you can understand. The first tenet or first principle of his architecture was that the buildings should be made on high plinths. They should be raised above the ground so that they can appear clearly. So the first point is raise the buildings on pilotis, freeing the walls of their structure from their structural function. So if you look at one of his most famous projects that was known as the Villa Savoy, it is in France. And in that building, you will see that throughout the ground floor, you'll just see stilts. You'll just see very narrow columns, and the actual facade of the building can be seen on the first floor. So this particular principle can be reflected in that building and certain other examples. Then, with the walls freed of their structural role, a free plan should be employed. So, earlier the walls were load bearing. As load bearing structures were made, his idea was to free the walls from that structural load and to just make them like an envelope to cover the building so that their design is not harmed or influenced in any way or limited in any way because of that structural form. Third principle was the facade should be designed very freely. So he believed in a free flowing facade. Then fourth was the horizontal ribbon windows that can be seen in a lot of his projects. Even when you look at the images that you can see on the screen, notice all the buildings. They might be different in size and scale, they might be different in color and form, but some of these features can be reflected in all the projects that were done by him. Lastly, the fifth principle is the roof should be flat and host a roof garden, replacing the ground space that is occupied by the building. One more important thing is that when you look at the roof design of Le Corbusier, the flat roof is there, but there is some or the other kind of monumental element or some element, some design in the roof which makes the roof stand out. It can be a huge parabolic structure, it can be an extended roof, it can be a curve which looks like an airfoil, like in the chapel of Notre Dame du Haut in Ronchamp. So these are some of the examples where he has implemented unique elements in the roof, making the simple flat roof stand out from rest of the buildings. So now you can see some of his famous projects on the screen as well. The first one is a villa. It is a residential building in Switzerland, which was made in 1912. The second one is known as the Villa La Roche, again, a building in Paris, in France. This building was made in 1923. So these were the early and experimental years of Le Corbusier. Then when you look at the third one, again, it is a residential building, but this one is in Germany. So you're also seeing that how Le Corbusier's work is growing and it is also going places. So he's not just limited to France, which is his place of origin or place of birth, but he's also doing projects around different parts and spreading his work around Europe, especially. So after that, the fourth project, which started in 1928 and ended in 1931, is literally one of his best works and most famous or most celebrated works, that is Villa Savoy. Villa Savoy is a building which has been asked about in multiple years. In both JEE Paper 2 and NATA, questions related to Villa Savoy have been very common. And almost every other year or in every 2 years, there is at least one question in NATA which is related to something or the other which is about Villa Savoy. Then he has also made some low-cost buildings in different parts of the world. So you can see one example here, the low-cost housing units that Le Corbusier built in 1926. Then another very interesting building that was done by him is in the second row, the last second building. This building is known as the Chapel of Notre Dame du Haut. It is in a small town called Ronchamp. And this building has a very unique roof. It is actually a very large hut and it has a very unique roof which goes upwards from one side. The one part or one corner of this roof is at a much higher height from the other, and the design of this roof has been inspired from airfoils, which are a part of aircrafts, which help them in going upwards or flying up. Then another important or famous structure that he has designed is the last one. The last image that you can see, you will see a small element, a small structure in the skyline. It looks like a bird. It is actually the symbol of an open hand. And this is something that Le Corbusier designed in India. It is almost like the logo of Le Corbusier's Chandigarh. This is the open hand monument. It is in Chandigarh, India. Then some other structures that Le Corbusier has made in India are the Palace Assembly, the High Court building, and some other institutes and universities as well in India. So you can see the image of High Court of Justice building in Chandigarh in the last row, the second image. And this building was made around 1951, 1956 in India. Then you can see the Palace of Assembly building, the fourth image in the last row. Again, another work of Le Corbusier done in India. So now we'll go to the next architect. This is Charles Correa. Charles Correa is another famous Indian architect. He has also done some remarkable work and is almost like a pride for the nation. Charles Mark Correa was born in 1930 and he died in 2015. He was an Indian architect and urban planner. He's credited with the creation of modern architecture in post-independent India. So he was also a pioneer of modern style of architecture, and from that, you can understand that he was a contemporary of Le Corbusier, although he started working in much later years. Le Corbusier was already active in India around the 1950s. He started his work around 1960s, 70s. But he also popularized the modern style in India. He was celebrated for his sensitivity towards the needs of the urban poor and for his use of traditional methods and materials in building construction. Charles Correa designed almost 100 buildings in India for low income housing groups to luxury condos. He rejected the glass and steel approach of some postmodernist buildings, which is, of course, not very good for Indian climate, and he resorted to vernacular materials and vernacular construction techniques. Some of his famous projects or inspirational work can be seen on the screen. The first project is from 1958 to 1963, the Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya at Sabarmati Ashram. You can look at the picture right below the text on the screen on the left hand side. So this was one of his early projects. And the second one is Tube House. Tube House is actually a low-cost housing project that is in Ahmedabad. It is currently demolished. Then Kanchenjunga Apartments, one of his most famous works. These are very high-income group apartment buildings in the posh locality of Mumbai. He did this project from 1961 to 1966. Then the Smiley Center. This is a project done by Charles Correa in Toronto. So this he did around 2010. Then the Kala Academy in Goa, again a very famous building and also a very famous place for all art and design enthusiasts. He did this project in 1970. Then Vidhan Sabha of Madhya Pradesh, Jeevan Bharti Life Insurance Corporation building in New Delhi, the Parumala Church in Kerala. Parumala is actually a place in Kerala. So this church building is also very famous and very unique in church design. It is not like the regular church building, but it has a very different design. That is why it is outstanding work of Charles Correa. Then the National Crafts Museum in New Delhi, Bharat Bhavan, which is one of my most favorite buildings of modern India. This is in Bhopal in Madhya Pradesh. He did this project in 1982 and it is a mixed-use building. It actually has a variety of spaces, open spaces, semi-open spaces, completely closed spaces, where multiple activities can happen at one go. At the same time, many exhibitions, theatrical plays, workshops, all can run in the same campus. It's a huge campus with different kind of spaces. Very beautiful building. Then some other examples like Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur and Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research in Bangalore. There are many more projects which you can study about. Next famous architect is Zaha Hadid, one of the most influential architects of all times, one of the most famous female architects of all times. Her buildings are very unique because they are not of regular form, like they are not cuboidal or cubical or cylindrical, but they're of very unique shapes and designs, and they're very complex in design. She was born in 1950 and died in 2016. She is a British Iraqi architect, artist, and designer who is recognized as a major figure in architecture of the late 20th and early 21st century. She was described by The Guardian as the queen of the curve because she uses many curved lines and curved shapes in her buildings, who liberated architectural geometry, giving it a whole new expressive identity. Hadid was the first woman to receive the Pritzker Prize, which is one of the most respected prizes or awards in the field of architecture. She was given this award in 2004. Why I'm telling you this information? Because this kind of questions come in the exam. They ask about which architect won the Pritzker Award in 2004 or 2015, and especially the latest or the newest in the recent past, which architects have won these awards. So these kind of award related questions also come in the exam. Some of her famous projects are administrative building of BMW in Germany, the Riverside Museum in Glasgow, Scotland, then the Heather Eliviv Center in Azerbaijan. This building you can find in the third row, the last second image. This is one of our most famous projects. Then in the last row, you can see the Nanjing International Youth Cultural Center, which he has recently designed in 2015. Then the Maggie Center in Scotland, some of our most famous projects. Also in the second row, the fourth one, you can see Galaxy Soho. This is in Beijing, China. These are some of her most famous projects, and she was also a very interesting personality. Her thought in architecture was also very unique, so you can read about her. Then next is Frank Lloyd Wright. He is one of the most famous and loved architects, especially among architecture students, because his projects are very fancy and they're very unique and different. Yet he followed a style of architecture which was known as organic architecture, meaning something which was coming out of the nature or something which resembled the organisms or the natural elements. Frank Lloyd Wright was an American architect, designer, and educator. He has designed more than 1,000 structures, and he's still very popular. He's still a very big inspiration for all the architects. Wright rarely credited any influences on his designs, but most architects, historians, and scholars agree that he had five major influences. The first influence that he had was Louis Sullivan, who's also another master architect, whom he considered to be his guru. Then second one was nature, the natural elements, the nature around him, particularly shapes, forms, colors, and patterns of the plant life. Then third is music. So these were all his inspirations for creating his building. Music, his favorite composer was Ludwig van Beethoven, a very famous musician. Then fourth is Japanese art. He was very inspired by Japanese art, prints, buildings, and Japanese culture. And the last one is the Frobel gifts. Some of his most famous works include the Falling Water, which is a residential building. It is actually a farmhouse. That building appears to be literally coming out of the nature, and a waterfall is there inside the building, coming out from it. That is why it is known as the Falling Waters. You can find this image in the last row, the second image. Another famous work done by him is the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. Then some of his other works are the Wright's home in Oak Park, Illinois, the Walter Gale House, the Nathan G. Moore House. So a lot of residential projects have been done by him. Another famous work done by him is the Wright designed window in Robbie House. Robbie House is a famous project done by him, and the windows are especially very famous. You can find this image in the last row, the last third one. So you can read more about his works and his projects. The last architect is Walter Gropius that I want to discuss today. Walter Gropius is one of the founding members of the Bauhaus School, a very famous school of thought in Germany. And some of his famous projects are the Bauhaus Dessau, which is the Bauhaus School of Art and Architecture in Germany, the Gropius House, which he designed in Massachusetts in 1938, the John F. Kennedy Federal Office Building in USA, the Harvard Graduate Center in Cambridge, Massachusetts, then University of Baghdad in Iraq. Some of his most famous and influential works. So he has done a variety of projects, including residential buildings, institutional buildings, and commercial buildings as well. So we are currently running a crash course, online crash course for JEE Paper 2 and NATA. You can note this number on your screen. You can also find the same number in the comment section. You can contact us through these number or our website, and you can join for this online crash course for JEE Paper 2 or NATA. If you're someone who's preparing for these exams, our classes will be very beneficial for you, because right now I just showed you a small glimpse of what we discuss in our classes, but the classes are obviously more extensive, more number of classes, so you get a lot more information and insights on topics like famous architects and buildings. Now let's see some examples of questions which have come in the previous years in both JEE or NATA, which are related to the topic that we just discussed. So this is the first question on your screen. Like we were discussing about famous architects, both Indian and foreigners, and their famous buildings. This is one of the most common type of questions that comes especially in JEE paper 2. This question reads, which one of the following architects designed the Madhya Pradesh Assembly Building? Four options will be given to you: Raj Rewal, Charles Correa, AP Kanvinde, and B.V. Doshi. So out of these four, you have to tell me which is the architect who has designed the assembly building in Madhya Pradesh. But you can only know this if you have read about it. Otherwise, the project's names are very confusing. Architects' names are also very confusing. The right answer is Charles Correa. Charles Correa, who recently we discussed about a few minutes ago, is the architect who has designed the assembly building in Madhya Pradesh. I'll show you another question which has appeared in 2021 NATA exam. Who among the following is the architect of Punjab Haryana High Court building? Again, you have four options. Punjab Haryana High Court building. So this building can be in Chandigarh as well. Okay. So think about Chandigarh and then think which architect can be the designer of this building. You have four options: Maxwell Fry, Le Corbusier, Geoffrey Bawa, and Louis Icahn. The correct answer to this is yes, of course, Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier has designed and planned the entire city of Chandigarh and many famous buildings in it. This also includes the Capitol Complex, which is a huge complex with some important governmental and administrative buildings. The building which is mentioned here, the Punjab Haryana High Court building, is one of those buildings which was also designed as a part of the Chandigarh city plan. So a lot of governmental and administrative buildings were also designed along with this plan, and this building was a part of this. Next question. Where is the famous Notre Dame Cathedral that caught fire recently located? Now, this is a question which is purely based on famous buildings. So, as that was also one of the topics for this live, I put one of these questions. This question is also something which was asked in the recent years. I think 2022. This question was asked in JEE paper 2. And there are four options for this. Notre Dame Cathedral is located in which of these cities? Now you have to tell me the right answer in the comment section. The first option is Paris, second is Hague, then Venice and Rome. This is a very famous building and it was in a lot of news because of the recent fire incident. So I'm sure all of you know this and you've answered it correctly in the comments. And yes, of course, you're right. This particular building, which is actually a cathedral, Notre Dame, it is in Paris, France. Then the next question. Who among the following designed the Indian Institute of Management? Now, this is a tricky question because there are multiple IIMs in India. There's not just a single campus, but there are multiple campuses. And a lot of those campuses have been designed by famous architects. So out of these four, who do you think has designed an IIM, any of the IIMs? You have four options: Charles Correa, B.V. Doshi, Louis Icahn, and AP Kanvinde. Louis Kahn and Louis Icahn are the same person. Please don't get confused. So you have four options here. And the question is related to IIM, Indian Institute of Management. If you have studied even a bit of this topic, then this question and the answer will immediately ring in your brains because this is a very famous building and it's also a very famous architect. Please write your answers in the comment section so that we can see how well you know about this. And yes, the right answer is Louis Kahn or Louis Icahn. He was the one who has designed the IIM campus in Ahmedabad, which is the top ranking IIM in India. And it is also one of the earliest IIMs in India. It was designed along with IIM Calcutta in 1961, literally one of the first campuses of IIM in India. And it's in the top rank even now. But the building is actually very unique. Louis I. Kahn has implemented all of his architectural philosophies in this building, including large openings and the great play of light and shadow that can be seen in most of his work. This is the next question. Who amongst the following designed the falling waters? Now, all of you should be able to answer this because we just discussed about this particular building and this architect a few minutes ago. Your options are Frank Gehry, Zaha Hadid, Norman Foster, and Frank Lloyd Wright. I know that all of you know the answer and you've already written it in the comment section by now. The right answer is F.L. Wright or Frank Lloyd Wright. And Falling Waters is the same building that I was mentioning about, which has a waterfall coming out of it. And the building looks like it is coming straight out of the natural environment that it is in. And this is the next question. NIFT, which is National Institute of Fashion Technology, which is one of the campuses is in Delhi. So this NIFT Delhi campus was designed by, and you have four options: B.V. Doshi, Bimal Patel, Raj Rewal, and C.P. Kukreja. So which among these do you think is the right answer? Please think carefully and answer this. Yes, the correct answer is Dr. B.V. Doshi. You can see his picture on the screen. I don't think that he needs any separate introduction. He is a pioneer of Indian architecture, a very famous name who has given us so many important projects and influenced our architecture thought so greatly. Architects like myself take inspiration from his work even now, and there's so much to learn from him. But one very big and important thing about him is that he's also the first recipient of the prestigious Pritzker Award, the first Indian to ever receive this award. And he won this award in 2018 for his exemplary work and thought process in the field of architecture. So he's an important figure, not just because he is inspirational, he has done all of these beautiful projects, but he's also the first Indian to win the Pritzker Award in 2018. This is a very interesting question. These kind of questions come especially in JEE paper 2 a lot. So here two lists are given to you. In list 1, you will see the name of some architects. In list 2, you will see the name of famous projects that are done by them. So as I was telling you, many IIMs and many IITs, these are very important structures. So they are designed by these famous architects. There is a possibility that you do not know about each of these buildings or each of these architects, but this type of questions are the easiest to solve because they can be solved by what I call it as the deduction method. This is something that I teach to all of my students in my classes as well, how you can deduce the answer if you do not know the answer. Even if you know one of the options correctly, like we just discussed about IIM Ahmedabad, and we know that IIM Ahmedabad was designed by Louis I. Kahn because we discussed it a few minutes ago. So we know that B will be the correct answer for 1, or B will be associated with 1. Louis I. Kahn has designed IIM Ahmedabad. So look at all the options which have B and 1 together. So we have two options which have B and 1 linked together, that is option 3 and option 4. Now again there is confusion if 3 or 4, which one will be the correct. So will go with another pair. After this, who do you know about? Match the building with the architect that you know about. If you know anyone else, for example, if I know that IIT Kanpur was designed by Achyut Kanvinde, which is D. I know this. So again, I will link D with 3 and I will check D is linked with 3 in which of these options. And it is linked with, D is linked with 3 in only one option, that is 3. So that makes A. C.P. Kukreja linking with 2 Jawaharlal Nehru University, and C, that is B.V. Doshi with 4 IIM Bangalore. So with this we deduce that 3 is the right answer. So in this way you can deduce these type of answers. Now the next question is on your screen. Who is the architect of the famous Jawahar Kala Kendra complex in Jaipur? Jawahar Kala Kendra is another Kala Kendra, just like the one we discussed about, which was in Goa. Jawahar Kala Kendra is another art related building or institution that you can find in Jaipur. A very famous architect, Indian architect, has designed this. You have 4 options: Hafiz Contractor, Charles Korea, Raj Rewal, and Achyut Kanvinde. Who do you think is the correct person who has designed this? Please write your answers in the comment section. I am looking at the live chat while I'm discussing with you. So even if you have any questions or queries, you can write those in the comment section and we'll try to reach out and help you in any way we can. The right answer is Charles Correa. Charles Correa was the person who designed the Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur. So, students, these were some of the questions that have appeared in the recent past, in the previous years from 2020 to 23 in various exams like JEE Paper 2 and NATA for architecture. And yes, of course, we discussed about some of the famous architects, but the list is very long. To know about more such architects, you can join our online crash batches. Some of the classes have already been taken. A new crash batch is starting soon. So to join that crash batch, you can contact on the number given on your screen. You can also find the website of THiNC Institute of Design on your screen right now. And you can also find this number that you can contact on in the comment section. So if you want to join for this crash batch or for any other queries related to any design related courses, please contact on this number. I am architect Nishtha Joshi. It was a really fun session with all of you. I loved the enthusiasm that you showed while the questions were going on. And to learn about many more such topics, you can also follow me on my heritage trails, and you can follow the page of THiNC Institute of Design for more trivia, facts, and more knowledge about architecture and the competitive exams that are JEE Paper 2 and NATA. If you like this content that I discussed about in today's session, please like this video. Comment about anything that you want on this particular video. Subscribe to our channel and keep on following us for more such information and knowledge on architecture and architecture related competitive exams. Thank you for joining today. It was really a fun session for me, and I hope to see you all in the coming sessions.